Okay. Hello, all. My name is Colleen Semanek. I work in Comcast in-home Wi-Fi architecture. Suresh and I work together. He's an amazing Wi-Fi engineer.
Colleen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Colleen.
Okay. So Suresh is an amazing Wi-Fi engineer. He has been working on Wi-Fi 6 as well as our 6 gig technology and products. So I think of no better person to lead you through some of this. He's probably going to go into some pretty in-depth technical details about it, but I honestly believe that this group would benefit greatly from that. In the past, Wi-Fi has been a lot about a bit of alphabet soup. There used to be the B, the A, the G, the N, the AC, the AX, and then they decided, no, like IEEE, the governing body that does a lot of those, decided we're going to simplify it and we're going to get to the point where we're going to say Wi-Fi 6 and then Wi-Fi 7 and kind of, but then of course, like within months of after Wi-Fi 6 got ratified with the IEEE, then Wi-Fi 6E came out. So then we're back to the letters again. So it's certainly not an easy journey over time. Suresh is going to talk about some of the technology features that are relevant for 6E. The working group itself in IEEE is called high efficiency, right? So before we've been all about breaking those barriers of how we get higher throughput, how we get more out, more bandwidth, and now this high efficiency part, we're starting to turn the candle and starting to look more into latency and how we can kind of get more devices online and get them online efficiently, right? So a lot of the things that we do in technology in general is build it and then make it faster, right? So this faster is now kind of morphing into that efficient part. And then as part and parcel, that happened with the old 2.4, we moved to more spectrum in 5 gigahertz way back in early 2000s. And then now there's more spectrum that's released in the 6 gig space and what that means. So Suresh is going to walk us through that. Do we have him online or should I keep rolling? I don't see him. Yeah. I don't want to steal his thunder.
Keep speaking.
I was like, I don't want to steal the thunder that he has with his slides, but I will tell you that, it is a pretty exciting time, but with everything that's new, a lot of this stuff is the long game, right? So I want you all to think about the fact that, it's awesome from the cable side that you know about OFDMA from a DOCSIS point of view, right? So Wi-Fi is a little bit different. Since Suresh is going to go into some of those details about how that OFDMA piece is a little bit different. And then, just about how the devices, the capabilities, the signal levels that they have available. I think that's one of those things that, you start to look just slightly different. I mean, it's pretty easy with Ethernet, right? I was like, and then you think about, how do we manage congestion and how do we manage congestion control? How do we handle that type of stuff? Traditionally on networks itself, it's kind of easy. And honestly, even there's cool things about, congestion control mechanisms.
Can you hear me?
Hey, I could hear you. Right in the mic. Can you guys hear Suresh?
Yes. I just sorry, I was able to attend on phone.
I can hear him. Can you guys hear him in the room well?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna let you take over then.
Sure. So can you please share my slide deck?
Mike, your presenter. There you go.
Hey, Suresh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But yes, now I can. Yes. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Colleen.
Okay, very good.
Yes. Thanks, Colin, for giving me introduction, and thanks, Miller, for giving us an opportunity to talk on Wi-Fi 6 and 6 gigahertz. So my name is Suresh Parathi, and I work for Comcast as a Wi-Fi engineer. And for quite some time, I'm working on this protocol from over the years, maybe from past 10 years, I'm working on different standards and specifications. So in recent times, I was working on these protocols as well, and 11AX and the 6 gigahertz. Okay, then can we go to the next slide, please? Hello, can you hear me?
I can still hear you, Suresh. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the next slide. Okay, so today we're going to discuss about Wi-Fi 6. We'll refresh the concept on the 5-layer comparison as an introduction part, and we'll walk through the main important feature that is available in Wi-Fi 6, that is OFDMA, and we'll also discuss about other features also. And in the Wi-Fi 6E, we'll cover the overview and the type of access points and the client's classification, and the channelization and the bandwidth, and another important aspect in terms of security, that is WPA3. Yeah. So can we go to the next slide, please?
Okay, Suresh, we're on the slide with how is Wi-Fi 6E different from Wi-Fi 6?
Yes. So initially this year we are working completely on Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz. When the 6E came into existence, right? So we were pretty much confused. What is the 6E? Was it a part of 6 gigahertz? Is a part of Wi-Fi 6, or 6 is a part of again 6 gigahertz? So there is a little confusion in the early stages, but they pretty much work closely, and they have a little slightly different how they work. So here, Wi-Fi 6 basically represents the generation of the Wi-Fi, that is 60th generation of Wi-Fi, and basically it have its own specification or the standard which is associated to, that is called 802.11ax. So every generation will have associated to its specification, like Wi-Fi 6, it is AX, and the Wi-Fi 802.11ac, that is the 5th generation of Wi-Fi, and 802.11n, that is the 4th generation of Wi-Fi. Every generation is associated to a specification, but this is basically this is maintained by Wi-Fi Alliance, and then 6 gigahertz as released in the year 2020. Wi-Fi Alliance, like out of ordinary, they said that 6 gigahertz is going to be operate in an AX specification, and that's the reason the convention has maintained. So the Wi-Fi has so Wi-Fi 6E they maintain as a extension of 11AX specification. So that is called here Wi-Fi 6th generation is extended. Can we move to the next slide?
We are on the PHY comparison slide.
Okay. I can't see that. Okay, now it's coming on. Okay. So we will walk through of each specification here. So although I didn't go for previous generations like 802.11 A, B, G, because most of the enhancements that came into existence in .11 N radio, and that has been continued for 11AX. So in channel size, that is a 20 megahertz, that is the default size what we have earlier, and the 40 megahertz is the very first time 802.11n has brought this channel bonding concept. So we can add two 20 megahertz blocks joined together so that we can pump more traffic. And the only condition here is the secondary channel. When you try to join, that secondary channel should be idle so that no other access point is sharing the same secondary channel. That's the only condition to do a channel bonding. And 11AC, we have 20 megahertz, 40 megahertz, and 80 megahertz, and 80. We basically continued the momentum from 11N to 11AC. And we are not just limited to 40, but we extended to 80 and 160 also. In 11AX, we pretty much got the same number of channels and bandwidth, because 11AC and AX in 5 gigahertz, they are pretty much same in terms of the number of channels. And subcarrier spacing, it is the amount of time that is being continued from 11B or up to 11AC. And 11AX, we have reduced these subcarrier spacing to accommodate more number of granular subcarriers. So basically, the same channel width, I mean, the subcarrier spacing is been further reduced by 4 times. So that's how you get 78.125 kilohertz here. And next we have a symbol time. Symbol time is amount of time to transmit the data. That is pretty much same for across all the standards what we have up to 11AC. And in 11AX, we have increased this time to 16 microseconds to have better efficiency. And frequency multiplexing, and pretty much same across all the radios other than B and these stages of specification. And in 11N, we have a new version that is called high throughput OFDM version. The important keynote here is 11AX brought a new standard here, that is OFDMA, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing access. I will talk about in the next slide. And modulation here, we use different kind of modulations here, and the BPSK, QPSK 16 QAM, 64 QAM, and all this helps in increasing the overall throughput. The only condition, condition in 16 QAM is not about condition. What it can offer, it can offer 6 bits per symbol in terms of processing. In 11AAC and 256 QAM, it can send the data in 8 bits per symbol, and 11AX 1024 QAM is the highest QAM modulation what we offer in 11AX. It can offer 10 bits per symbol. And MU-MIMO, it is a multi-user, multiple input and multiple output. In 11N, it was there, but it was never implemented. It was there up to the specification. In 11AC, it was supported only as a downlink mode. In 11AX, you can have both downlink and uplink support. In terms of spectrum bands, we have support for all 2.15 gigahertz in different radios like B and A supports on 5 gigahertz and supports both 2.15 gigahertz. And AC, we support only 5 gigahertz. And AX, we have both 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz support in terms of spectral bands. So can we go to the next slide, please?
We are on the next slide.
Okay, this I didn't see yet. Okay. So yes, in 11AX is the 6th generation of Wi-Fi, like I mentioned earlier. If you see the evolution of the Wi-Fi 802.11 protocol, right? There are so many standards that came into existence in chasing of getting high throughput. So there are many complex modulation schemes we try to develop here, and different MCS indexes, and doing multi aggregation of AMSB aggregation, MPDU aggregation, all this contributing to get high speed. So if you see the ratio, the changes that are taking place between the MAC layer and the physical layer, so most of the changes that is being done at the MAC layer, but very little in terms of physical layer. But in 11AX, there is a big change that has happened, that is OFDMA, that is completely different from its previous ancestors. So if you take an example how this OFDMA works, right? Now, if you have one AP which is AX capable and multiple clients also 8AX capable and OFDMA enabled on the both sides. Now AP has a opportunity to talk to multiple clients in a single TX hop. Here TX hop means a transmission opportunity. AP will decide, okay, whether I can initiate a downlink or an uplink. So in this scenario, AP can send traffic to multiple clients as a downstream in a single TX hop, or else different clients or multiple clients can send a traffic in a single TX hop to the same gateway. So if you see traditional access up to 11 AC, right? Okay, there is only one station can send traffic at one point of time. So other stations have to wait until the active transmission has to be done. So this is a big change that is being has been introduced in OFDMA. So when access point talking to different clients here, right? What happening here is the bandwidth between across all the clients is being shared. So that's when the bandwidth is shared, then you are increasing we are effectively utilizing the spectrum more efficiently and increasing the overall transmission. Not just transmission here only, right? We are reducing the overall contention time for each station. In previous case, in 11 AC, or other clients have to wait because of one active client is doing the transmission. In this case, multiple clients are doing active transmission in terms of uplink or downlink. So we are reducing the overall wait time of each client, and thereby collisions also. So when I say this bandwidth between all these clients has been sharing, right, that is being achieved through tones. Traditionally, if you look at the slide, traditionally we call them as a subcarriers in 11 AC, up to 11 AC, but in OFDMA we refer as the tones, because each subcarriers will be divided into 4 times, and we will make them into small granular tones, as a small granular subcarriers, and we pack them as a resource unit, and depending on this further splitting, we call as a tones here. So these tones can be distributed in the types of sizes, that is 26, 52, 106, and 242, 484, 996. Depending on the need of the client, AP can have a flexibility in choosing what resource can assign to the client. So can we move to the next slide, please? Hello?
We're on to the next slide.
Okay. So this is another distribution of tones in 20 megahertz channel. Let's talk about 20 megahertz channel, and we can apply the same logic to in 40 megahertz, in 40 or 80. So here, the smallest granularity tone what we get in 20 megahertz is 26. 26, and these 26 tone, individual 26 tone can be assigned to 9 different users, and in the middle of the channel you see as a 13, but those can be combined together and can assign to a single client. So here the AP have all the flexibility in choosing of tones. Like for a single client, it can assign 2 times of 52 tones to the one client, or one tone to 106 and another tone 106 to a different client. So when it uses 242 tone in its 20 megahertz channel, it cannot accommodate any other user of the client, because it is assigned the entire 20 megahertz channel to only one single client. It depends upon the TX of. It can be doing a uplink or downlink. There is no restriction that AP can choose only a particular resource unit in uplink or a downlink. There is no restrictions on that. And here the important thing is, if you see this OFDMA, right? Traditionally, we have seen 40 megahertz, 80 megahertz, and 160 megahertz. That is, they are increasing the bandwidth. Although OFDMA supports all these higher bandwidth, but it also shows that what is the importance of making bandwidth into smaller units, so that it can accommodate more number of users in a given amount of channel. If okay, let's I'll not talk about all those details. So here another condition here is AP can assign tones to the client in one segment. Let's say one tone from 52 and one tone from 106. That cannot happen. It can do 2 times of 52 tone to the same client, or 2 times of 106 to the same client. But one from 52, one from 106, that cannot happen. That is the only limitation what AP have in terms of resource unit allocation. So again, AP can change dynamically in every TX op for different clients. Okay, for the same client, if it assigns 52 tone, in the next time it can assign 106 tone. So it will change dynamically depending on the need of the client. So can we move to the next slide, please?
We are on the next slide.
Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, right, 11AX AP can talk to multiple clients in a single TX op. So how that is being achieved here? So we'll see how the frame exchanges happens here in the first phase of the downlink. In like every other radio, even AP access point have to go for arbitration. Once it get opportunity to initiate a traffic, it can decide whether I can do a downstream or upstream. So in AFS, it stands for arbitrary interference spacing, and like it works on EDCA mechanism, which is slightly different from, more efficient than the regular DCF protocol. And it will, after a wait time of AFS, AAP will initiate MURTS. So MURTS is another version of modified version of control frame, which acts as a trigger. The purpose of RTS is to assign tones to the client for responding back as a CTS, because when AP is initiating RTS, it acts as a CTS from the client. And at the same time, the purpose of RTS also ensures that so that no other legacy clients can get interfere with each other in this condition. And after a wait time of 6, AP can initiate back-to-back aggregated AMPDU packets. In this case, we see 52 tones for 4 different clients, but need not necessarily have to be the same every time. Depending on the client need, it can change. But in this picture, we have 52 tones, and after that, fifth time, AP can initiate a draft. After the fifth time, AP will initiate a block acknowledgement request. That means the previously sent packet has been received or not. It's asking the AP to the client, and the AP will clients will respond back with a block act. That means the previously received case has been received or not. It's like a confirmation. And the below I have mentioned here is a textual walkthrough what's happening in multi-user RTS. It's an extended trigger frame for the upstream, and that will be sent on 20 megahertz block so that the legacy clients can also understand. And CTS responses will come in the parallel so that AP expects all the responses in a timely fashion. There should not be any delay. That's the reason resource units will ensure that. And the blocker will ensure that okay, previously packets has been restored or not. It's like a confirmation from both the sides. So can you please move to the next slide?
Okay, we're on to the next.
So this is an uplink. This is not going to be straightforward for an access point, because for an access point to do a downlink, it receives the traffic from the backend Ethernet, and AP knows the fact, okay, how much traffic it is there for it has to send for the client. There it can decide how much tone I can assign. But in case of uplink, AP doesn't have any knowledge. Okay, which tone I have to assign to which client. To that, first what it will do is it will try to know the buffer depth, or how much data that is being that is in queue in at the client side. So for that, what it will do is it will initiate a trigger frame that is called the BSRP. It stands for Buffer Status Report Poll, and it will ask the client, okay, how much data they available at your end. Then station will respond back with the BSR. Basically, it tells that, okay, my acquisition identifier is this, the amount of data is available this, and what type of traffic I'm going to send in the if you allow me to send the traffic. So all this information will be sending in the BSR. Now AP have the information. Okay, so which client is having which data, how much data, and the next what it does, it will send a trigger frame as a multi RTS. Like again in the previous case, it will reserve the medium so that at the same time no other legacy clients could interfere here. And for RTS, it expects CTS. After that, after waiting for 6 times here, the trigger frame will initiate asking the client to send back an uplink traffic. The trigger frame here also consists of a resource unit. The resource units from trigger 1 and trigger 3 is different, because in trigger 3 it assigns depending on the client's traffic request. So here if you see here, station 1 and the station 3 are using uplink PPDU packets, and uplink and station 2 and station 4 also using uplink PPDU packets, but they're using an additional pad there. Here padding means AP assigns the resource unit to different clients, and all stations should respond back in a single at all same amount of time. That means if no other stations should send the traffic as soon as it got finished, so it have to wait for until other clients have to wait here. So in this meantime, it have to do a padding. It is like a bogus data. But what is the interesting trade-off here is if a client of station 2 is a mobile client, right? So it is a battery driven basically. AP is encouraging the client to do a padding for which is unused data, which cannot be used, and at that instance it is using the battery power. So it is an interesting trade-off here when we try to do an uplink throughput or evaluation. Having identical type of devices, identical type of data traffic is very important in terms of doing uplink. After that, it will wait for 6 interval and station and access point and sends a multi-station blockade for all the stations. At the same time, it need not necessarily have to be multi-station. AP can initiate a blockade for the individual station also, depending on the client, depending on the condition of the station response back. So this is another textual walkthrough I just mentioned here, what AP do in terms of BSRP request and the client response back, and what the trigger frame consists of, and how the BSR efficiency is impacted in terms of padding. So can we move to the next slide, please?
We are on the next slide.
Okay. So in 11AX, we have so many features like, target wait time or preamble puncturing, long preamble, Dss coloring, and OFDMA. There are so many features, but I picked few among them. And one is Dss coloring. This is another feature that improves the overall performance of the network by distinguishing which packets belongs to them, which packets doesn't belong to their BSS by ignoring a few signals. Now, if you see the one example, like when 2 access points are there and 2 clients are associated to it, and so what? And after connecting this, okay, they are very far they are very far, but however they see with very low signal strength. That means they are doing an overlapping BSS. So when these 2 clients wants to send the data, since they are too far, the energy threshold may not be detected as an interference, and they try to send a packet. However, at the receiver side, it may fail because of this collision. So this is another condition, and most of these devices, right, they try to demodulate the packet to see who is the source address of that, and looking at the MAC header. And if the packet belongs to, if it packet belongs to them, then it will process it. If not, it will try to drop it. That's how the most of the 802.1 radios operate. To avoid that, so what Dss coloring has been handled the situation is, if these radios can see at the physical layer by any header information that maps to that, so then it can quickly see that, okay, this packet belongs to us, then we can go and process it. So what Dss coloring will do is, it will add a identifier like a number that represents a color. So when any radio, Wi-Fi radio look at the 5 header, and looking at the 5 header itself, if that string matches to its own BSS, then it will go and process the packet, and it can decide whether it can go what to do the next. But in that case, they call as the intra BSS. In another situation, if the incoming packet does not match to its own BSS, then that is called as the inter BSS. Such packets will be ignored. So overall here, it can decide okay, which packet belongs to us, which doesn't, and based on that, it can act as, and that's how it will eliminate interference from the next BSS. So can we move on to the next slide, please?
Okay, we are there.
Okay, so another feature what we have is multi-TID traffic add. It is like traffic identifier where we can aggregate multiple traffic. In 11N has introduced this concept aggregation of a MAC layer or the physical layer. But the one condition here is although it have there are set of conditions to do a MAC aggregation. So one condition is all the packets have to be the same access category. It can be voice, video, best of or background. Or only those packets can be aggregated as long as they belong to one particular class type. So in Wpac, they have introduced another feature that is called regardless of what access category you have, you can aggregate that AMPDU packet. Now that's what we're seeing here in the picture. The first MPDU you have video, and the next MPDU you have voice, but still you can able to aggregate as an aggregated AMPDU packet. This is much. It also improves the overall efficiency compared to 11AC. And multi-user. In 11AX, we have two different features that is called multi-user MIMO and multi-user OFDMA. So, looking at that top view, both look the similar kind of job. Multi-user MIMO is AP can talk to multiple clients at the same time. Yes, in OFDMA also do the same kind of job in talking to multiple clients at the same time. But however, the way they operate, operation is altogether different. So multi-user MIMO talks to multiple clients using spatial streams. That means it will maintain a single lane traffic to one particular client, a dedicated client. Like that, it can maintain 8 different clients. That is the maximum what AMU MIMO supports. But in OFDMA, it will each bandwidth is being fine-grained smaller bandwidth, and depending on the client needs, it will assign the resource units, and it will assign it will talk to clients. So here, in a 20 megahertz bandwidth, it can accommodate 9 different clients here. So that means if you go all the way to 160 megahertz, it can accommodate 74 clients. It can talk to 74 clients in a single TX talk, which is way advanced than MU MIMO. And MU MIMO only supports downlink. Only AP can initiate the traffic to the client. But in OFDMA, both AP and the clients can do traffic bidirectional as an multiple clients can talk to the same gateway, and the gateway can talk to multiple clients in a single layer. So there is a much more flexibility what we have in OFDMA. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
Okay, we are on the next slide.
Okay, so now we talk about 6 gigahertz. Early 2020, yes. In early 2020, somewhere in April, May, SCTE chairman Ajay Pai has officially announced that 6 gigahertz is going to be available for unlicensed Wi-Fi, and it is a good sign. It is a good sign. People who are working in WLAN side, it is a good news, because over the 20 years, we are completely working on only 2 bands, that is 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz. And but still, Wi-Fi has made a significant journey in terms of the amount of the specification or the standards, the way we started Wi-Fi from 2.1 Mbps to 2 Mbps, and we have now reached to all the way to 9.6 Gbps in 11AX specification as a theoretical throughput. So it is a significant journey. It's quite phenomenal. But here, what we have to see is, with all these limitations, the number of channels available in 2.4 is 3 non-overlapping channels, and the 5 gigahertz with DFS limitations, we were able to achieve all these achievements so far in the Wi-Fi. Now, for the same Wi-Fi, we're going to get a new spectrum that is from UNI 5 to UNI 8, that is 5125 spectrum and 7125 as the N spectrum. So it altogether is going to be 1200 megahertz that can be applied to low power indoor access points. So that is we'll talk about next what access points are. And in 6th generation extended, yes, 6E is going to be operate on AX specification, but the frequency band is going to be different. Everything is going to be the same. In terms of regulatory status, many countries already adopted these frequencies. US and South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Chile, they are already operating in 1200 megahertz spectrum. And Europe, they opened only the first band of 6 gigahertz, that is UNI 5. And countries like Russia and Egypt, even they are considering only to open UNI 5. And Australia and New Zealand, even they are considering to open the entire band for 1200 megahertz spectrum. So overall, there are other countries also still consideration, and they are talking to their own regulatory authorities. So the list can be extended by end of this year or mid of next year. So where does the Wi-Fi go? Yes, actually Wi-Fi 6 have a great potential in achieving high throughput. It has all the tools, but because of the limited channels of availability in 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, it cannot see the better visibility there. So now 6 gigahertz have a option to AX where it can go to its highest potential, where it can offer the best. Like multi-gig traffic, and it can support 8K resolution of videos. Any application like augmented reality, virtual reality, still can be supported on 6 gigahertz. I can give an example here. In near future, Wi-Fi Alliance is going to release another specification that is called 802.11b app, that is Wi-Fi motion. Using Wi-Fi signals, we can detect motion in that particular room. So in those use cases, there are some features like biometrics or elder care. Using Wi-Fi signals, we can capture the biometrics, or using the Wi-Fi signals alone, we can detect a person is breathing heavily. Such a granular precision can be detected using these Wi-Fi signals. So for this, to achieve it, we require higher order bandwidth. So that can be possible in 6 gigahertz. And what are the benefits of 6 gigahertz? Yes, it have a high capacity of 5920 megahertz channels and high speed. Here we're going to get 7 160 megahertz channels, continuous and non-overlapping channels, and 1480 megahertz channels, and low latency because it is offering OFDMA, MU-MIMO, and 1024 QAM. If both sides are operating in AX capable, yes, we can expect a latency of 1 millisecond. And requires OFDMA. 6 gigahertz doesn't operate, doesn't have any backward compatible. It operates on its own like a greenfield mode. And clean RF, because it is very new, we will not be having any much interference from out there when you use a 6 gigahertz. So can we move to the next slide, please?
We're on the next slide.
Okay, so this is the API and the client's classification. SCTE has recommended, depending on the power levels, the API is going to be classified. The first is the standard-based access point. Standard-based access point can be operated at both indoor and outdoor, but under the control of AFC, that is called automated frequency control. but it is authorized to operate only in two bands, UNI 5 and UNI 7. The UNI 5 is a bandwidth of 500 megahertz, and UNI 7 it is a third band of 6 gigahertz, which is again 350 megahertz, and the power level is going to be 30 dBm, and 36 dBm per access point. Any clients connected to standard-based access point should be operated at 30 dBm, and the 17 dBm per megahertz is a EARP in PSD representation. And low-powered indoor is another classification from SCC that can operate anywhere from UNI 5 to UNI 8. That is entirely 1,200 megahertz spectrum, which is 30 dBm. Here 30 dBm, when AP, we can put the AP in 320 megahertz port also, but if it is operating as 160 megahertz, then the power level can come down to 21 dBm. And the client connected to low power indoor can be operated as 24 dBm, and the same represented in PSC is -1 dBm per megahertz. And next we have 7 equipment classes here. So low power indoor and standard power access points. Which clients to be connected, or what clients can be connected to LPI or a standard power? The first is we have a subordinate client of device. Basically, it is a type of device where it can be used to extend your wireless, and it can be used in mesh networks. So here the subordinate device also will be under the control of a low power indoor, where the power level is going to be 30 dBm or less, and the subordinate device can connect to another subordinate device so that it can extend the range. And the indoor client, it is expected to connect only to a low LPI access point. And a dual client, it is a special type of client where it can either connect to low power indoor or standard power access point. Before connecting to either of these access points, it have to regulate its power so that it matches to the access point where it is connecting, but it cannot connect both at the same time. And fixed client is a special type of client that is being placed at the customer premises equipment, and that is permanently attached to a structure. And here this fixed client must connect to AFC and a standard power access point. Even the same client have to register on its own to a database. We'll talk about what is the database in next slide. And it have to give its geolocation and at what power level it is operating and what is the antenna coverage. All these details have to provide to the AFC, and it can come to standard based access point. And standard client, it is the same client. It is like an indoor client, but it can only connect to standard power AP, which is power level is equivalent to 30 dBm. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
We are on to the next slide.
So this is another representation of AP and the clients, standard power and low power indoor. And we do also have another access point that there is very low power, but most of the vendors are targeting with these two as the most implementation, as a first implementation as a priority. So standard power access point can only operate in UNI 5 and UNI 7 as both indoors and outdoor, but they must be controlled on the ASC. So what is this ASC here? Although this 6 gigahertz is fairly new to Wi-Fi, but the same spectrum is already in use in outside by other incumbent services. So these incumbent services like fixed satellite services or broadcast auxiliary services or cable division relay services, all these come under the incumbent services, and these are a licensed spectrum for them. Now, FCC has released the same spectrum for Wi-Fi as unlicensed. So whenever these access point wants to operate in outdoors, so this can potentially become a interference for them. So what FCC has recommended here is it's like it's not recommendation, it's like a guideline. So how the AFC system should have it have its own framework and the database, and what is the operational requirements for the access point, and what is the interference protection analysis we have to take. Such a guidelines it is. So what is the database here? Basically it stores the data. So it stores all the incumbent services, where it is located, at what is the antenna coverage, cell coverage, and what is the power, at what power level it is operating. All this information will be stored in this database. Now, even these standard-based access points go first. They have to go register in this database, and before this access point start operational, it's going have to communicate with the database and provide some input. This is my geolocation, and this is power level I'm trying to bring up, and this is my antenna coverage. All those details provided to the database, then it can go and approve or deny depending on the condition. If any other incumbent services already present in that range, then it might deny. Or if it is not there, and from the database it will get an approval, yes, you can go and operational. So that is the condition here. And this is not exclusive for Wi-Fi alone. Even existing Wi-Fi incumbent services also have to follow the same procedure. So Commission has ensured that if all these incumbent services and Wi-Fi following the same rules, there should not be any conflict or any kind of interference from each other. So this is a condition we have to follow whenever we deploying a standard-based access points. Next, we have a low-powered indoor. Low-powered indoor, we have 59 channels in 20 megahertz and 2940 and 1480 and 7160 megahertz. And these are all continuous non-overlapping channels. That is the beauty of this LPI. And like standard-based access point, low-powered indoor access point also have some kind of restrictions. It's not about some operational, but it's a kind of design specific. These access point, low-powered indoor access point, should not be enclosed in a weatherized enclosure so that they can put outside, and they should not. It should not run on a battery. And another thing, the design of antennas should not give a provision or give an access to connect to an external antenna. This is the only condition what they proposed for LPI. Can you move to the next slide, please?
We're on to the next slide.
So in terms of bandwidth and channelization, right? Since we increase the number of channels in, I'll go fast from here. Since we increased channels in 5 gigahertz, the first question comes how the scanning is going to work, because traditionally how the scan works in by the station, it goes to one channel and wait for some time and wait for the probe response, and it move to the next channel, right? So it will continue on all the channels what it is supported on all the bands. So if the same procedure applies to 5 gigahertz, it's going to take huge time, maybe close to 3 to 4 seconds. That's the reason, like 6 gigahertz, they have come up with a new approach in scanning. That's how what we do is, since A02.11a Act supports 80 megahertz as a mandatory, pick the channel of first channel from person as a starting channel and keep next 3 and pick the 4th as the preferred next channel. So what it happens here is since it is operating at 80 megahertz, when the client go and scans in the first primary channel, which is equivalent to the 80 megahertz channel, a client need not go and scan each and every channel in 6 gigahertz. So scanning in 80 megahertz block is equivalent to scanning in the first channel. So that's how you can operate as a preferred channel list. But it comes in active scanning. In terms of passive scanning, there are other considerations. This is one type of consideration, that is a fast initial link setup. Instead of AP sending a fully packed beacon, it will send a lightweight beacon only consisting of its SSID and the DSSID for every 20 milliseconds, so that whenever a station listens passively, it can detect this AP. Okay, there is the existence of a 60 gigahertz AP by using the unsolicited probe responses. Can you move to the next slide, please?
Okay, next slide is loaded.
Okay, so next we have WPA3. This is the most secured authentication what is available at Wi-Fi Alliance, and we almost use it because of a recent compromisation of WPA2 encryption. And 6 gigahertz operates only on WPA3. It doesn't have any backward compatible of WPA2 AES or TKIP. It works on WPA3 SCTE mode or OWE mode. But again, Wi-Fi Alliance also has another advice here to operate only on SCTE mode instead of OWE mode. SCTE mode is simultaneous authentication equal. It is how we to prove the client and the AP that the communication to exhibit, they exchange a few packets here. In the first, it will happen at the authentication phase. In authentication phase, both AP and the client, the first two packets will ensure that they exchange the knowledge of the pathways, not using the exact pathways what the user enter in personal mode. So after exchanging these first two packets from the AP and the client side, that is called commit messages, and moving on to the third message, AP and the client will verify using a mathematical computation what AP have the message from the client and the client have a message from the AP, what the key what they have is being correct or not. If the key is correct, then they will generate a PMK. So from PMK, they generate the PTK and the four-way handshake will happen. So basically, WPA3 and WPA2 here, right? In WPA2, there is a little compromise there because the way the PMK is generated is generated from the actual passes key. Then there is a little compromise there where it is like a vulnerability, like offline dictionary attack. But such a offline dictionary attack can be protected from WPA3 encryption. So it is much secured compared to WPA2 AES. And another is WPA3 transition mode. This is a temporary mode. What even Wi-Fi Alliance doesn't recommend this, but many vendors are opting these methods so that it is a slow transition for the client from WPA2 encryption to WPA3 encryption. But however, in the very future, every client has to land on WPA3 for the higher support. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
Okay, we're on to the next.
Okay, so these are the clients available, APs and the clients available right now in market as a indoor access point, the Linksys and Nighthawk and Comcast and Asus are the access points, and below the number of clients available in 6 gigas. Most of them are 2x2 clients. And here, one thing I just want to mention here, when you scan this 6 gigahertz SSID, right? When the user configures split SSID on the access point, like 2.4 one SSID and 5 gigahertz one SSID and 6 gigahertz another SSID, on the when you scan on the phone, you will see on the scan icon on the top right corner, if you see here, there is a 6E. That's how 6 gigahertz SSID is going to be visible for the customers or the users. Now, if you configure identical type of SSID for all the bands, then you will see as a Wi-Fi 6 initially. When you connect to the gateway, if it is connected on 6 gigahertz, immediately the icon will turn to 6E, or if it's connected on 5 gigahertz, it will turn to Wi-Fi. It's just as a 6. That represents it is connected on AX mode in 5 gigahertz. That's how you can differentiate on the mobile client. It is supported on Windows and as well as Android phones. There is no support for iPhone in 6 gigahertz right now, but it is a one way of distinguishing how a client is being connected for 6 gigahertz band or AX band. So I think, do you have any questions? I think we have a short time.
Okay, thank you, Suresh. We'll take a second here and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Sure.
Okay, Suresh, we don't have any questions from our audience here, and we don't have any from our online panel. So we thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate your presentation. We'll make that available to our audience along with all the sources of information that you have contained in the appendix here.
Thank you.